An MVP hackathon is essentially a streamlined process in which we take an idea and end up market testing it and deciding whether to keep it or kill it inside 90 days. It starts with a hackathon to generate the ideas, then a development phase to turn it into an MVP, then a monetization phase where we market test it and see if we can generate some revenue out of it, and then taking the decision of whether we want to invest further in this or do we want to kill this project. All of this inside 90 days. There are three main reasons why any corporate should consider doing an MVP hackathon. Reason number one is simplifying entrepreneurship. Normally, this process has a lot of complexities, a lot of different compliances and restraints. And through this particular process, you kind of avoid all of them and it promotes and simplifies entrepreneurship overall. The second reason is market feedback. Inside this time frame of 90 days, you actually get to test your service or your product in the market and see how they respond to it. The third point is the time to market itself. So if you do this through an internal perspective, it can easily take around 1 year to develop a product, to test it, to check the market analysis, and to comply with multiple other regulations before you can actually launch this. Through this particular approach, you can actually go to market inside 90 days and then decide what to do with this project later on. Now, the outcome out of this 3-day hackathon is essentially that there will be an animated prototype that will be tested by the final users who will be present at the hackathon itself. And even more importantly, a 30-day backlog based on the key features that need to be developed in order for the minimum viable product to give its value proposition to the main users. 30 days is not a lot of time for an MVP. But the main concept in play over here is the creativity by constraint. So essentially, you are constraining all of the relevant stakeholders to think that what are the main features that will deliver the value proposition of your product or service needs to be developed within the 30-day framework. So essentially, everyone needs to have a consensus and mutually decide on those common features, which will also stop you from any conflict in the future. Secondly, rather than having all the features listed and then getting a code for 150 days or 250 days of production, you will already know that the budget you need to allocate for this is 30 days. The next step after the development and the launch of an MVP at the end of that development is to actually test it in the market and see if we can monetize this MVP and take feedback from the customers themselves. Which brings us to the last point. Now we will decide, based on the monetization and what the feedback we got, if we want to invest in this project more or do we want to kill it. In terms of time frame, the development is 1 month, the monetization and the market testing is 2 months, and then that's when the decision is taken as to what to do next.
What is required for these kind of innovation programs to succeed in large established businesses or organizations is to have two things. Having the front line creating, so it's not the top which is bringing the ideas and then everybody is executing it. The creation of those ideas should happen in a mixed group and essentially from the front line, because that's where there is the real value creation for customers, that's where there's the most of interactions happening with customers. However, what has been very essential, and I always advise this, is that the sponsoring needs to be from the top. If the journey is not sponsored from the top, which means that the CEO or somebody at the exco level in such programs, it is difficult to ask people to fail and to try and fail and then to probably pivot and then eventually succeed. Not only the signal that the organization gets, it's also the resources and the means. So I would say this is the combination of the two dimensions required for such innovation programs to succeed.